against Dungeon of Doom members Taskmaster, Kevin Sullivan, Shark, used to be Earthquake in the WWE, and then Zodiac, which was a painted up version of Brutus Beefcake, and then Kamala. They the Hulkamaniacs won the match, so by virtue of the win, the Sullivan had to go in the ring with 5 minutes against Hogan. About a minute goes by, the Giant comes out, interrupts proceedings. He gets in the ring, he slams Hogan a couple of times, does like he's turning his head to make it look like he hurt him. And after then, the next month was Halloween Havoc. Although Hogan put him over by letting the Giant in real life, by letting the guy we call Big Show walk out of the building with the belt, he didn't actually win the championship. So even though legally speaking they had Jimmy Hart go on TV and he had said that he had power of attorney over Hogan, so when he had them put in the contract of the title match that Hogan could lose the title by disqualification, the full story here is right when Hogan finally got the Giant down for the 3 count. Talk about perfect timing. When he hit the leg drop on the Giant, Jimmy Hart hit referee Randy Anderson in the back of the head and neck with the championship belt. So they end up leaving Hogan after Luger and Savage came down, and then a guy wrapped up like a mummy came down, and they called him the Yeti, and he helped the Giant lay out Hogan to the shock to everybody. And Luger and Savage came down. We thought they were there to save Hogan, but Savage was there but no, Luger was there to stop Savage, and he revealed that he was a part of the Dungeon of Doom the whole time. So Jimmy Hart, about a week or two after that, he told me and Gene about him having power of attorney over Hogan, and now he had them set in writing that he would lose the world championship if he got disqualified. That's when WCW's lawyer came in and said, and he had it in writing that the people that make the final decision in WCW had in writing that they would not give the Giant the title, but they would honor the agreement that Hogan lost the title. So when they brought his attorney in and he announced this, he said that since they already were having the 60-man 3-ring battle royal at the next pay-per-view, they were going to crown the new world champion. So what I'm going to do now is going to go on peacocktv.com to find that pay-per-view and the match went with it. As you notice, I just have myself talking. I don't have any videos to complement this, and that's because the last time I uploaded any videos that I wanted to upload, there was a strike against it, so I can't I can't record the videos, and if I do record the videos, I don't know. I don't know if me being in the video talking about it will make a difference. So that's why you only see me, you don't see anything else. So if it makes a difference, me recording and talking about it at the same time that I'm recording it, I will do that. I would do that. I would do that in the blink of an eye. So because I don't know if that makes a difference or not, that's why I can't do that at the moment. Now, my my thoughts on the battle royal, despite how boring it would be to somebody like my mother, for instance, who said that matches like that always were boring to her. What I would have to say to to um to her or anybody else that maybe ask me why I like this match so much. Well, as a kid, I had always liked it's always really big on how do you say that? I'm trying to think of the right words here. Different ways you can use matches. And like that's why I liked the ladder match for the championship, and I always liked the tables match because as crazy as that looks, putting somebody through a table, even though it's not traditional, even though it's not about wins or losses, it's about how you win and lose. It's about putting somebody through a table. I always thought, because you can win the match at any time doing that, I thought, I wonder how you can tell a story doing that. That's what I always liked about it, is it added intrigue to it. And by the time they instituted tables matches, everybody already had a sense that it was not real anyway. So that's why I didn't see it as much of a big deal. However, the three ring battle royal was, in my mind, it was the best way to put just about everybody in the company in a battle royal. And I thought using three rings was interesting because it made you ask yourself, what? I'm trying to think of the best question to ask this. Yeah, what I was going to say is it made you ask yourself, okay, how can they be different than the traditional battle royal? And what I discovered, either from this event or from the second or third event, is that every year they would do this. Every year they would do this. I would I'd ask myself, what? How how is this different? And watching as a fan for many years, I knew how it was going to be different. But when that's what I always liked about WCW, was they would always explain rules, and they would actually have the ring announcer go over the rules So they said whoever was finished in the first ring would wait about 5-10 minutes before they go in the second ring. When I explained that to Mom said, "Well, that makes sense." And the Royal Rumble, even though it's one of my favorite events because I always loved the Battle Royal, it really, after a while, it really can be considered just not, I don't want to call it useless, but you can almost say it's almost like it's almost like comparing it to like antique. Well, they like to say antiquated a lot in today's society. And so after a while, you just feel like even though you can use different entrants and different people in the entrances and at Royal Rumble to make it more exciting because you don't know who's going to come out and who's not going to come out. But after a while, if people just feel like they're watching the same old thing, then some people may look at it like it's antiquated. So that's why I always thought using a match with different ideas always was a good idea because it made fans think to themselves, how can the other companies think differently? War games, what TNA did, which was Dusty Rhodes, I think it was Dusty Rhodes' way of reinventing the war games. That was he did Lethal Lockdown with just one ring because of how wide the six-sided ring is. And what they did with Sting was what Sting did that in his character at least that added to Lethal Lockdown was adding weapons to it. And that actually was what helped set it apart from war games. So yeah, anytime you talk about newer matches, it's always a good idea to do something we've not really seen before. Right. So what was really good about this was I believe they went through the what's really good about this match is they went through the expense of re-airing the story explanation on video. And as I was watching the introduction to the pay-per-view, I remember I was right. There were a lot of video clips that I had seen in other videos, and they compiled them all for this event for the introduction of this event. Like they showed the clip of Sherry coming out with Harlem Heat, and I could tell by the clip that it was from Clash of the Champions when all three of them went against all three of the stud stable to get their title rematch at Fall Brawl. So yeah, I always thought things like that were interesting, especially looking back at it today because of how for so many years Vince McMahon was in charge. So he would not let anything like that be showed. So he didn't want to remind people of the past. He would only want people to know about what's happening now. And I think that's a lot of reasons people why it was so easy for people to lose interest in that kind of match. Yeah, showed the video of Hogan turning quote evil for a short time, and they shaved off his mustache, and he was started wearing black. The reason that did not work, the reason why that didn't work was because it was not done with the idea of him turning turning because he was fed up with the audience. It was done with the idea that it was because of the evil he was surrounded by. That's why that type of story was was not going to work. He had to be in a situation like the NWO became, where he where it was something you could not predict. Because I remember the only thing I knew as a fan when the NWO started, the only thing I knew is that Kevin Nash was coming after Scott Hall showed up. I didn't know anything else. So when Hulk Hogan turned, it was not just a shock because, that's Hulk Hogan. It was a shock because, I didn't really know much about the history of the business because number one, we did have a computer desktop, but we didn't have internet. Number two, even if we had internet, they didn't have the internet the way they do now. So there was no way of um of knowing everything that was going to happen that they do now. There are some websites that talk about results from the past shows on Nitro and Raw. There are some websites that show you those differences, but those results and even the matches that were not shown on TV. But I didn't know most of those websites even when we had internet and Wi-Fi. I didn't know those websites existed, so that's what I have to say that doing a podcast or a live stream like this really helped me in learning things because I had no idea there were different videos that they had available. And yes, that's one thing I can also say after watching this because it took him a while to regrow his mustache after they shaved it off. It's very difficult to see Hulk Hogan without a mustache. So him growing a beard as Hollywood Hogan just made sense because we're so used to seeing him with facial hair. So adding more of a beard and having it look different than his mustache, for instance, which he had been doing for many years, is what made him really Hollywood Hogan. Say what you will about Eric Bischoff, but I really thought he was a really good, commentator. And when you watch Something I never thought I would see is when they put Michael Hayes on table for three with Bischoff and Jim Cornette. I never would have thought I'd see by that time. I never thought I would have seen the day when with nice words and with actually the word we use is civil. So everybody coming through the ring through the curtain for this. Because that was coming out right here. I'm surprised Scotty Riggs was not behind him. So Unmasked Man from Japan, then Kurosawa, then Humorous, then Zodiac behind him, then Michael Wall Street. When you look back at this, you can see how much Bo Dallas looks like his dad. You have a Diamond Dallas Page, then you have Scott Flash Norton, Flying Brian Pillman Sr., Sergeant Craig Pablo Pittman on Man Game. That's one half of the Assassins, I believe, or actually, I don't know that. Then you have Mr. JL, the Bunkhouse Bug, then Suki Sasaki, Mike Winter, then Shark, Steve Armstrong, Road Warrior Hawk, Dave Sullivan, Scotty Riggs, Johnny B. Bad, Big Train Bart, Art Steven Regal, Dirty Dick Slater, Max Muscle, that Masked Man's tag team partner, Oreo Brother Fidel, Kevin Sullivan, Nasty Boy, Jerry Sachs, Hacksaw Jim Duggan, Booker T. of Harlem Heat, Bubba Rogers, Ric Flair, Hulk Hogan, Okay, they have Michael Buffer doing the introductions for the match get started. They show everybody behind him in the first ring. Even back then, they had the Scope Arena for Charleston, South Carolina, I believe, or no, Charleston, West Virginia. So I remember TNA went there once when they were trying to build their pay-per-views and trying to make it profitable. And Cornette was there as an on-screen authority figure. I remember they went to that same arena once when they were trying to explain why Kevin Nash was not at the arena yet for Main Event Mafia's match, and they were trying to explain why Rhino hadn't shown up yet, and it was all it was all to cover up it was all because real life. They wrote in for Rhino to pretend that he got attacked by members of the main event mafia because in real life Sting was having his knee was getting I forgot what you call it when he needed his knee worked on, rehabbed. Not a surgery, but it's I forgot something to do with rehab. So he needed the match shorter. So that was when Rhino showed up like he needed to be taped up. He still went out there. So the reason I talk about that is just to this is what it shows. It shows how good they are at acting. Because I honestly thought he really hurt himself. So when I read that was all an act, I said, well, we know it's an act. We just don't know how good it is until we read a story like that. They all started fighting right away, rights and lefts. They show them all simultaneously. What I like was how they would always use the focus to show one, and then they spread it out to show all three at once in different boxes. Okay. Ming's going after Sting right there on one. No, I thought that was Sting. That was Cobra. He looks just like Sting. Okay. Orndorff's going after Sting with help from Arn Anderson. Whereas I was going after, at that time, the newest Horseman member, Benoit. Nobody's really having any advantage in the bottom side of the screen, which is where the ring is at. Bobby Eaton is on the apron on the second ring, and he almost was eliminated until he finally managed to roll back in. Okay. Well, I always thought it was interesting when everybody was in the ring at the same time, because that's actually the original purpose for the Battle Royal is for every man to be in there at once. The most, before World War III happened, the most you would see was just 2 rings with 20 men, or 30 men at the most. So, see right here how big those traditional rings were. If you have 60 men, that meant that 20 men were in all 3 rings. $20 men in one, 20 in the other, and 20 in the third. It shows how wide those rings used to be, but still to put one big cage over them, over 2 rings, shows it wasn't wide enough for war games. Still no official elimination yet, but although there have been some people outside of the ring, but we don't really know what happened to get them outside of the ring, so we can only assume they were eliminated without them showing it on film. Kenzuki Sasaki, by the way, was in the second ring from Japan. He was the WCW United States champion in this event, as he beat Sting during their tour of Japan earlier in the month. Well, let's see. So that would have been interesting. For people who watch this, it would have been interesting if he, for instance, would have won, because that would have made him automatically a double champion and by virtue of winning this match. So things like that, I like to look back at and think, it would have made whoever won would have made history, but it would have really made history if a if a champion won it. Even somebody like, for instance, Johnny B. Bad, if he was to have won, he would have been the first ever TV and world heavyweight champion in the history of the business. So that's why I think things like that are interesting. So if Harlem Heat had won, because I believe they were the champions, one half of them won, they would have been the first ever tag team and heavyweight champion at the time. Looks like Dave Sullivan was eliminated. Steve Regal gets back in there. Let's see. So many men still in the ring, and just go Inferno right here. When he was actually calling for a timeout. There was a man in blue tights that looked like the same type of blue that Sting used to wear, aqua blue. I can't really tell who that is. So I got a feeling he's the one who was getting paid to lose. Samos got eliminated, but he managed to stay in the ring. If I was any of the guys by Disco Inferno, I would have flipped him over and eliminated him, but he started asking for a timeout. So, Dick Slater and Nasty Boy Sags were trying to eliminate Sullivan. In some moments like that, when you can excuse that because it is every man for himself, nobody has alliances or enemies for that matter. But if you notice, nobody's tag team partner is in the same ring with them. And if they are, it's nobody that really can make a big difference in the match. Somebody who really has a lot of star power, somebody who doesn't really show like they had a lot of ability in the ring. So that's what I think is interesting about this. So they just said that both members of the Nasty Boys were eliminated. Okay, Michael Wall Street managed to roll back in the ring before he got eliminated. Okay. This is a match where truly every elimination does count because it's every man, everybody that gets thrown over and lands their feet on the floor. It matters who that person is in the match because it could have been somebody you thought was going to win. That's what I always liked about these matches. It always kept you on your toes. You never really knew what to expect. Okay, Mark Starr was almost eliminated by Brian Knobbs. Okay, so it wasn't both members of the Nasty Boys, just one. Okay, Mark Starr was just eliminated with Brian Knobbs, who decked him with the right hand. Okay, Cobra. One guy who's bald headed, I don't know his name. He just. Hello? Yes,